Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Bonnie. This is episode 209, and we wonder if Wonderman is wonderful. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back. It's Confidently Wrong. Hello, Savon.
What's cracking with you? How you living?
You know, we're just freezing down here in Texas. I know you're freezing up there in the north. Everybody's freezing except the West Coast. Brian, how you doing?
I'm here.
You made it.
That's all I can say. I'm here.
All right. Well,
I'm present.
Damn,
present and
Southerners.
accounted for.
Damn, Southerners, it's cold.
It was very cold. It's cold today. It's low 30s, I think. We're excited for this show. Marvel dropped a
Low 30s. Anyway, continue.
We're not talking about the weather on this podcast. We're in a very cool show. We get to talk about Wonderman in this pod. It's going to be structured kind of like normal. We'll talk like real first, non-spoilers, what's it about, all that good stuff. And then we'll get into some spoilers into our first initial impressions. But because Marvel dropped all 8 episodes on us at once, like good old-fashioned Netflix, we actually will talk about some of the stuff that happens in the second half of the show as well. And then we'll get into it. So
That's Marvel's black superhero strategy.
yeah, just to drop it and not market it. And, you know, Savon has been keyed in on this pattern here for a
Brian
while.
told me to say it with my face. I didn't even have to say nothing.
Yeah.
I was just silently
Yeah.
Cosign.
You've been saying this for a while.
because I'm right. They don't care. They spoiled Captain America, and then the last 3 black shows they released all the episodes with minimal. That's not a conspiracy. That's just that's just what happened. Like,
Yeah, minimal fanfare. It's
not making shit up.
doesn't even on Disney Plus. It's not even the title, the first title that you see. It's still Percy Jackson or something. I think when you log in initially.
I heard at one of the Disney places. I don't know. I have to verify it. I heard they don't got the Sam Wilson Captain America at the meet and greet stuff no more.
Oh, really?
This really is Trump's America.
Well, I sent you guys that picture over the summer. We went to Disneyland and I got to take a picture with Sam Wilson, Captain America.
I know.
So,
She was hard.
so hopefully he's still there. That would be
As
sad.
limited edition, my friend.
Limited
Right?
edition.
That shit about to be like a picture with Muhammad Ali. Just, yeah, man. This is some real
shout out
vintage
to
shit.
New Edition. Also, I got to show you guys. My daughters, Eliza and Kaya, decided they were going to paint my nails, and it was a real disaster if you were judging it from like a manicurist, perspective, because the paint is all uneven and it was all over my fingers.
Did you go to school for that?
But did I go to school?
These are all the criticisms that Wes lodges at his children.
But it was a lot of
as they
fun.
play with him.
Well,
Keep
no,
on,
but it
they're
was
like
a lot.
Not
young
good
children.
enough.
Getting
Audience,
there.
they're young
I'm
children, to
getting
be
there.
clear.
I'm getting there. Yeah, I mean they're
You
2
think
and
you're
4.
getting a tip? Yeah,
They're
right.
babies.
What did you? I didn't expect anything better, but they had fun. So fun. We'll continue this tradition, I think.
That boy said, I didn't expect better. This man West is great. Just a robot with children.
They could barely marker and paint. Like I mean, of course.
This man West just shitting on his kids all on his podcast. This is amazing.
I want to make a racist joke about nail salons. But
You
Nah,
made
don't
it
do
by
it.
implying
I
it. You've
won't.
already
Yeah.
made it.
Just imagine the
Anyway.
racist joke, friends.
I know.
Also, they're not even. Never mind.
All right. So we're in Wonderman, which I think it kind of probably Wonderman is not a well-known character for most folks, even if you're into the nerd world. I had never heard of him before they announced this show. Savon, can you just give us an idea of maybe who he is in the comics a little bit, and then what this particular Wonderman version is kind of about for the people who don't know?
Yeah, to be honest, to your point, like Wonder Man's kind of like a low-key character. It's not like he's got a bunch of fanfare in games and movies and shows. Like, I don't really know that much about him. I know he was like one of the West Coast Avengers, which is, just the Avengers, but in LA instead of New York. And I know,
BT.
right? And I know he has like, there's some G's, but it's like, it's just one of those. His backstory, and I know he started out as kind of like a soft villain because most of the heroes end up being villains at first, yada yada. Then he kind of has your generic just energy projection, flight, superpower, like a very, if I'm gonna be honest, not very imaginative moveset. So I didn't really have a lot or know much about the character beyond that. Avenger, kind of generic power set, whatever. But I know that this version in the show is definitely a lot different than the versions we've gotten in the past, where he's just like, I know for certain in the comics he's not a struggling Haitian actor trying to get by with powers that, at least from where I am at in the show, don't really understand the origin of. So, I could be wrong in some elements, but I think this version of Wonder Man seems pretty decently divorced from the version that we see in comics, outside of apparently the comics version has an acting career too, but I don't know. But also I need to finish the show, so maybe as you go through the show there'll be more alignment between this version and the comic version. But like, nobody knows a lot about no effing Wonder Man, bro. It's just keep it a being with you.
Okay, small. So he's a pretty small time character.
It's not even like he's in video games. Some characters appear in niche video games and stuff, and they have like, he doesn't even have like he appeared in an arcade game. It's like, if you're a Wonder Man fan, I don't know what to tell you, man. You on some shit.
He and this is we brought up the fact that Marvel wasn't pushing this show not because he's black, but just coincidentally, right?
No, it's just a coincidence.
You have a black actor, but in the comics he's not a black character, and being Haitian isn't part of his identity, which does seem to play a little bit of a role here. It gives kind of depth to his character within the show. And then, do you guys know how to say this actor's name? I actually don't know how to say his name.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen.
Okay, so that was
A+.
Excellent, nice job.
Someone did his homework.
I don't think I've ever seen him in anything before.
He was in Aquaman.
Dude, he's Dr. Manhattan in The Watchmen.
He was in the TV show, right?
And he won an Emmy for it
in the HBO series.
Yeah,
yes.
And he was Black Manta in Aquaman.
Exactly.
Okay,
so he apparently
seen him before then,
and he was in Black Mirror.
He wasn't really interested in taking on another superhero project, from what I understand, until they approached him with Wonder Man. And the conceit of Wonder Man is actually that during the filming of Shang-Chi, when they brought back Trevor Slattery, who is played by Ben Kingsley, who first appeared as the Mandarin, turned out to be like some washed up actor playing the Mandarin,
coked up, right? He
shows up in Shang-Chi. Why is he in Shang-Chi? I don't even remember why he's in that movie. But anyway, the director and Ben Kingsley were joking that they should just do an entire show about Trevor Slattery being an actor in Hollywood. And they even like mocked up some like fake movie posters for it. And suddenly that joke kind of spiraled out into
it was a joke that turned into like, wait a second, this is kind of a good idea.
A lot of stuff we did.
Let's pair him with the other superhero actor person in Marvel, which is Wonder Man. And then they started figuring it out. And also part of the pitch was like, can we make this TV show unlike anything else in the MCU? Can it be the A24 show within the MCU? That's actually kind of like part of the pitch. And I think that's how they were able to get Yahya on board. But unfortunately, show got shelved once Disney ownership said that, hey, we got too many shows. We want to focus on quality over quantity. And apparently the show was done for a whole year or more before they decided to release it. So
again, that tracks. That happened with Ironheart and some of the other shows too. Like, we know that they were done for a while. They were just sitting on the shelf waiting until, they're ready to just drop them all. But that makes sense though, because like I was curious as to how he ended up in Wonder Man, knowing that he had been in Aquaman and all that stuff. So it makes sense considering what we know about the show and how it's turned out, that like they really sold it well and pitched it well to him. So I'm glad.
Nice. And we'll talk about this later, but the actor Yahya Abdul-Mateen, is that how you say it? Abdul-Mateen?
Yahya Abdul-Mateen.
Abdul-Mateen.
Yeah. It kind of reads the way it looks.
Gotcha. Okay. He phenomenal performance, I think, throughout this whole show. But we'll get into it. I've really enjoyed seeing him on screen, given that I didn't really recognize him from anything before. So okay, so let's just really talk about those first 3 episodes for the next little part here. Definitely going to be some spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. Highly recommend it. Each episode's only about half an hour, so it's a pretty quick watch. You can binge it in a day or 2 or 3 without really trying that hard. So it's oh, you don't like, oh, I know Savon doesn't like binging, but
I didn't say anything.
I think
y'all gonna stop doing that. I didn't say nothing. Y'all did this last night too. It's a super
bingeable show, and I highly recommend you go watch it. However you like, but you can binge it, I think, and still get a lot out of this. All right, let's get into it. So first couple of episodes, how did you feel about the overall tone, vibe of the show? It's a little bit wacky, in certain parts. Did it feel to you like they really kind of threaded the needle of the serious, the funny, the little bit of a slapstick? Did that work for you, Mr. Brian, drinking from his sloth cup? Where are you at on that one?
So this show is pretty unusual. Like I said, they were deliberately going against the grain of the MCU on this one. And so here we have down and out actor Simon Williams, played by Yahya, in Hollywood, struggling actor trying to land gigs, get roles, practice his craft. He's very serious about
He landed
acting.
a gig. He got a gig.
He starts off the show in a gig that he then gets fired from because he's too much of a serious neurotic actor.
It's impressive how quick he self-sabotages.
Kind of he really did.
I was like, oh wow, this is he's going out of his way to fumble the bag. Yeah. This is actually impressive, the degree to which he is screwing himself over. I'm just, oh man, this is great.
Yeah, he is a character getting in his own way. He is Daniel Jones on the Giants, fumbling at the 1 yard line after sprinting for 50 in the open, and I'm like, dude, come on, you trip over your own feet.
God damn.
So that's sort of the setup, and then through curious circumstances, he meets Trevor Slattery, again played by Ben Kingsley, another struggling actor who has returned to Hollywood after his fallout from being the Mandarin, and they never mentioned Shang-Chi. I don't know what happened with that.
He got kidnapped in the movie. Remember the real Mandarin was mad about him for doing the thing, so he tried to have him killed. He ends up getting saved, but ends up having to take refuge in the Hidden City place after.
And then I thought he was staying in the Hidden City at the end of Shang-Chi. What is he doing in Hollywood?
He decided to get back into the game, you hear me? Plus the Mandarin wasn't out trying to kill him, so he said, all right, well, I guess I could. He's not like a prisoner no more. Because he really was just the Mandarin's prisoner. So he really was just indefinitely locked up. So he said, all right, well, homeboy dead, my ops is gone. All right, shit, it's time for me to get back in the game. Most realistic response.
Man's got to live his life.
You can leave the game, but the game can't leave you.
Hey, acting is a calling.
Yeah.
So they link up by happenstance in their show. And what's so interesting is that most of the show is about them being struggling actors together, trying to land parts. And you're like, what is happening? Like, is this a Marvel show? And they're just like little hints here and there that Simon Williams has a secret, which of course is that he is a superpowered individual. And
that creates one of the sources of conflict for him.
Big source of conflict, as it pertains to his ability to do what he loves, which is act. And so from the jump, we have Simon Williams rehearsing, getting ready to do lines, to do his calling of acting. And, he's doing all the silly acting stuff. You're like shaking your face in front of the mirror and making weird noises, right? Yeah. And all that kind of stuff.
Jar Jar Binksing it up, man.
Which apparently Jar Jar Binks was just getting prepared to do the scene. They started rolling too early. So from the jump, I am with Simon all the way. Like you just feel like, oh, this guy is so into his craft. It's so silly and fun, but serious at the same time.
You can tell
And
he like cares about it. It
Yeah.
means a lot to him.
he's invested in it, and he's got sort of that like inner fire and desire that is just like classic Hollywood hero type stuff that
But of course, it's
very
meta because it's
undeniable and
about
hard to.
Hollywood and acting.
But
already.
he's definitely giving
Yeah.
he's definitely
Very-
giving theater
very meta
kid
here.
though. He's definitely giving theater kid. Like,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. He was about theater, about thespianship.
casually
That-
quoting,
that's the
just
kind of
knowing
guy
all the
he is.
quotes. Like, he don't just, to your point, like he really about this life.
Yeah. He's
Love
trying to
of the
really
game.
embody the character, understand the characters. Like that was his whole thing. That's what got him kicked off the show. Is he's really trying to understand like why would a character say this word? What tone would they use? What choices are they making? And really trying to like intellectualize and break down, digest every single parts of things. And you appreciate that, right? Like as a viewer, you're like, actors who take this seriously and spend that time on doing it. It's really cool to see someone really take their job, their craft, their passion that seriously and to that degree. And at the same time, you can tell that this is actually a, sort of his toxic, obsessive behavior that's not actually good for him. He's not able to embrace who the character is or embrace the moment like an actor needs to be able to do. And I think like you could say that for any job, right? Like if Brian gets too into the weeds on how he's editing a show and is just focused on like, well, is it like this click that I need to, or is it like this millisecond later? And it's like, well, you've lost the plot. Like focus on
his people
the story
skills
that you're
Have
telling.
you been talking to my director?
his people look, his people skills are ass.
They're terrible.
Like,
he has no
his-
friends. They make
yeah,
it really
his-
clear he's never
yeah.
made a friend.
His girlfriend leaves him,
Um,
basically in the second scene of the show.
Yeah. So,
Not even because he lost his job. She's just ready to leave.
She's already packed up.
Yeah.
She's
Look,
like, you
his girl-
are unavailable.
look, he doesn't have any friends, and he goes on these long bits where they're like, "Hey, sir, this is a Wendy's." And we do not have time for this.
Yeah.
Which I have thoughts about his character so far, which will be fun to discuss.
All right. Well, get into it. I think the tone of the show to me worked for a lot of it, especially in the beginning. I think there was a nice mix of like, we're learning about these characters, who they are. The tone was cool. The sets were cool. The scenes were cool. And so there's just a lot of stuff. I think in some ways, I think if you're a little bit tired of, Hollywood looking at itself, you might not enjoy it because there's, we're looking behind the scenes at sets at, like how people interact with the PAs, how all of this stuff like happens behind the scenes, a little bit more logistical stuff. You're on a sound, a studio lot. So, I mean, I would get it if you're kind of like, why is Hollywood making another movie, or show about itself? We just had the studio. We just had we love Hollywood loves to write movies about writers writing movies because the writers are, going through
That's
it
the
themselves.
life they live.
Yeah, exactly. So if I think that's the only part that maybe would turn somebody off, but I think it's worth it if you stick through it because there is a story here that goes beyond that.
I mean, but if you're so jaded that you're sick of that, you're sick of superhero stuff, it's like, why are you watching Disney Plus? Just go. Like at that point, you're at the meat store mad you can't find veggies. Like, hey,
well, you
problem
might
ain't for you.
you might want more of the superhero story and less of the like the acting side of it or the like production side of it.
But
That's
I think
all.
in the context of like a Marvel Disney TV show, this is a huge breath of fresh air relative to what you would normally get. And I think that's the important part is that it gives the same vibe that some shows like Agatha or WandaVision gave in terms of, okay, the show is trying to just do its own thing and be its own thing. And I think that's what at least when it comes to the tone and all that, I think that's what I've liked the most is that, at least for me, I'm not looking for a specific thing. I just wanted to feel like you're trying to do your own thing. And as long as that feels organic or sincere, usually that's a good sign and gives me a lot of goodwill going in. But like, to your point, the biggest Marvel reference we got was, besides the Mandarin shit, which is a hilarious joke, a hilarious recurring bit, is
yes, I'm the Mandarin.
It's like Rogers the Musical. But other than that, they keep it tight. And I guess to answer the question, I think it works. The tone works, and like just the way the world and kind of context of the MCU they've planted us in works because to the point of the plot, like the people in the story don't want superpowers. Like Simon's also is almost an interesting character because it's like, we always have these podcast discussions. We're like, oh, if you could have one power, what would that power be? And someone always picks a power that's like, okay, this is good if you want to just fight people and blow shit up, but if you're trying to work your day job, this is a useless power. And meanwhile, this is like the show. That's like the premise of the show. Like, hey, what if Wes's dream was to be a really successful school teacher, but his power is to blow shit up? And that's not conducive useful, to what he wants in life at all. But he also has to hide it. And I'm like, okay, this is like, that's different. I don't know. I rock with that. We haven't really had other Marvels. The closest is maybe She-Hulk, but She-Hulk was definitively a sitcom. So I like the tone of what Wonder Man is, and you know, I can't wait to hear more about what y'all thought about the rest of it.
All right. But like, unlike She-Hulk and Agatha, which even though they branch out into their like sitcom legal show, and then, you know, sci-fi musical or fantastical musical show that Agatha is, like, they're still very much in the sci-fi realm. They're still very superhero-y in a way. Whereas this show, you know, confoundingly is maybe 15% like superheroes, 15%, maybe even 10%
it's less.
sci-fi.
Yeah.
And like 90%, 93% is just all like these two guys trying to get a role on a movie about a superhero.
Yeah.
Which is they're trying to get on the remake of the Wonder Man movie that apparently exists in the MCU. And so that is like I think that is like a huge gamble that the show is taking. And I actually wasn't sure if you guys were going to ride with it or not.
I've said before, my thing about comic stories is that what makes them good is when you can tell whatever kind of story you want to tell. It just happens to have superheroes and powered characters involved. And I've always found really good comics leaned into that. It's a story about civil rights and discrimination, but with people with power. It's a story about acceptance and family, but with people with powers. And that's kind of what Wonder Man leans into more than all of the other Marvel shows, to your point. Like, the other good Marvel shows do that as well, but this one leans even further into just its base genre. And to your point, this is really just a grounded-ish people story in a super-powered world. But in the way we talk about actors, you know, shows doing like the ratio of, hey, how much do you want to balance things out? This is a unique balance, but it's a ratio that like is bold, but I think works. And to the meta part of the show does a good job of refreshing something that maybe feels a little stale. Which I know, again, the hyper meta element isn't lost on us, but like, I gotta give them props of like, hey, they're kind of doing it in a way that's unique but not self-indulgent, which is hard to do.
So did you guys relate to Simon Williams and to Trevor Slattery in this and their chemistry together? Did we or in the first few episodes, were you like bought into them as characters, Savon?
Yeah, absolutely. Simon. So this is what's interesting. Again, I know I'm saying this from a first 3 episodes perspective.
Yeah,
and this isn't a
which
bad
is what we
thing.
want. We'll talk about. Me and Brian are going to actually continue the pod after this little mini discussion here, and we'll talk a little bit about
after we eject Savon.
Yeah, you're kicking me out.
We're gonna mute block him, and then we'll talk about the last parts so that we don't spoil it for Savon. And if you don't want spoilers, obviously, like, we'll save that last half of the show for later. So we're not going to talk about the second half of the show yet. We'll get there in a little bit.
Yeah,
Savon.
But I love the dynamic. I like the way they characterize Simon of like this. He's charming, he's talented, but man, his awful people skills are just so blatantly obvious in like the way he talks to his agent and the texting, and she says, "Stop texting me," and he keep texting her, and just him trying to finesse to get into the casting call. Like, we've met people. He immediately comes off as very real and relatable, which I find like not relatable in the sense that I would do that shit, but it's just like, yeah, man, I've met people like you, and this is funny to just watch you stumble through all of this. What I didn't expect was that, and it makes sense from, like, I'm realizing it makes sense from a storytelling perspective. The first few episodes, it's almost like we're watching it from the perspective of Trevor Slattery, and we're sharing his perspective as the audience to learn more about Simon, because he's such a guarded person. Even we, the audience, don't actually know that much about him or the kind of person he is. Most of what we've learned about him has been how other people talk about him, sometimes even when he's not around. Like, I just finished episode 3, and what I loved the most is that it was just Trevor talking to his family at the mom's birthday dinner, and that's when you learn more about Simon, I would argue, than any other time. But I love that.
Points.
But I love that we're actively doing it with Trevor at the same time. Like, we're like, oh, Trevor, because Trevor's already had his arc and his whole, like, yeah, he's a recurring character who's never been a lead, but like, he's had his arc of struggling actor, get your shit together, try to not be a complete total piece of garbage. And most of us know that about him. We know he's a little schleamy, but he's not a bad person. So we already empathize. So we're kind of
his heart's in the right place.
His heart's in the right place, right? And we know he's passionate. And so when he's learning about Simon and we're doing it at the same time, there's moments where at least I felt me and Trevor were kind of having identical reactions at the same time, because we're like, oh, this guy's so charming and charismatic. Oh, he's never had friends. Oh, he has this really strained relationship with his family. Oh, he's clearly an outsider in all these spaces. And Trevor's being strong-armed into having to, like, you know, kind of set him up. And I like that. And this isn't a critique, but I actually like that the first few episodes, it kind of leans into the Simon's girlfriend says, you're guarded. You don't tell me anything. And even as the audience, we don't really get told anything about Simon. We don't see that much about how he moves through his life to know a lot about him as a person. We learn that he's a deeply hurt, flawed, he got a lot of baggage. He got a lot going on. But I like that they use Trevor as a proxy for the audience to kind of go about that, rather than overly relying on flashbacks or overly relying on the main character telling a story from their life that's like, okay, this is clearly exposition. Like, the exposition feels better coming from other people who have a reason to talk about it, rather than a really closed off man who clearly doesn't want to talk about his powers because he knows that'll F up his entire career. So I thought it was a good, like, storytelling element. I'm sure that we're going to get more Simon as the show goes on, in terms of him kind of being, we're not just learning about him through other people, we're learning about him through him. But I've enjoyed how they've initially kind of introduced us to the character through someone else we probably are a little bit more sympathetic, empathetic, and familiar with. But I don't know if I like Simon in terms of him as like a person, but I like watching his character just move through the world, because I really just am enamored by the idea of someone who has this godlike power, and that has nothing to do with the path to his, like, what he wants in life. Yet, I'm sure that'll switch up as the show goes on, but as of now, it's like, yo, his godlike power does not help with any of his problems in life right now with his family and career. And I just think that's a really compelling, I think that's just a really cool, it's almost the way, like, the same reasons good Superman stories can be told, of like, it's not really about his power, it's about his relationship with the power to what he wants to do in life. And that's more intriguing. It's not about Superman beating people up. It's about how do you balance all this shit with the regular day-to-day life he got. And I don't know. I'm rocking with that so far.
Yeah, superpowers aren't going to help him land the role as Wonder Man in the Wonder Man reboot movie.
Yeah, and that's dope, because he says, like, I was born for this. That's his childhood. Like, I just think that's a really cool obstacle of, like, you want this and you got this, and it's just not going to help. So what's the plan, player?
He loves the original Wonder Man movie, which they show is like this really campy 80s sci-fi movie where he's like fighting space aliens with bad laser guns, and just looks really goofy, but he himself embraces it. And it makes me wonder, like, is this just a really, really long-winded origin story for him to become the real Wonder Man? But I like your point about seeing Simon Williams through Trevor, and that's where the 10% of the MCU comes in. And I'm gonna kind of spoil the end of the first episode here. And the reason why Trevor is being injected into Simon's life to observe all these things is because dun dun dun, he's actually spying on Simon Williams
he's a CI
for the Department of Damage Control, which I think the last time we saw them was at the end of the Ms. Marvel TV series. Is that right? Where they're the government agency in charge of cleaning up after superheroes and like keeping tabs on superpowered individuals and, you know, eliminating those kind of threats within the US. So they have actually
been monitoring
Oh, that's right. They were at the end of the second Spider-Man movie, right?
And She-Hulk. They've been kind of like a pretty.
So they're in the ether.
They're in a lot of
They're in the
post-game
MCU
shit.
ether. And so they have their eyes on Simon Williams. They know that there's some curiosity here about what's potentially a dangerous, superpowered individual. They are leveraging Trevor's background as the Mandarin, for your freedom. You got to get us intel on this guy. Hey, he's an actor. You're an actor. Make this happen. And so I think that little bit of MCU-ness actually is something that keeps the plot moving forward in this series that would otherwise just feel like kind of like two acting buddies going through Hollywood. It lends the show a little bit of conflict and oomph, because Trevor's playing two sides, right? He generally also wants to act. He generally also wants to land a part in the Wonder Man reboot movie. He genuinely likes Simon, right? Like they start getting along because they're jiving over their love of acting. They're
kindred
thespians, right? Like they're scene partners, basically. It's like, this guy's my scene partner. And the show becomes a lot like the other TV show Barry in that sense. For those of you who don't know, that's like an actor who's actually secretly a top-notch assassin, trying to make it in Hollywood. Not too unlike Wonder Man. So they're like buddy scene partners, but he has a mission that he's got to inform on this superpowered individual. He's trying to get intel. So that sort of is clouding their interactions and might be, leading us for some sort of, climactic moments later in the show.
Yeah.
That has to come to. I mean, that has to come to a head. If it doesn't, that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'll say is just, Brian, just to kind of co-sign your point, I want to give Marvel props of like they've done a solid job post Endgame of like certain background forces actually being recurring enough to where you feel their weight in the world. Like when you do Google when does damage control pop up, I'm like, oh, they're in She-Hulk, they're in Spider-Man, and like the first Spider-Man, with Michael Keaton and all that, Homecoming, they're in that. Because their whole point was that damage control is actually what spurred that whole plot of that movie. So, like, yep. I do want to give props where props is due of, like, because they've built out damage control in the background of Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, Spider-Man, all these shows, them appearing in Wonder Man is a lot more plausible and makes sense. And because of how they've characterized them through these other shows, the background conflict being government agencies have these superpowered prisons that they need to fill up, otherwise they lose all their funding. So now they're going to use it to like, kind of monitor familiar. And F up citizens. I'm like, that's extremely realistic. So, but I guess to say like, but that only sticks, at least for me, because they built out damage control in the background. So we've already known that's the kind of time they be on. So I do want to, give props where props is due of like, I think this is a better example of them taking advantage of their background long form storytelling to prop up a show that like otherwise you need to have a conflict that makes sense or makes people care. And this conflict not only makes sense and makes me care, but like it's enough stakes that doesn't feel like it's like it's BS. Simon has a dangerous power, and I could see the government just being like, and we are seeing it, the government being like, yeah, nah, none of that shit. And they have a track record. So good. This is a good use of them using their collective toolbox of plot points and shit to like actually improve the show. And, I hope that trend continues.
All right. Well, we're about to say goodbye to Savon. But before you leave, Savon, after 3 episodes, if someone is like a little bit on the fence or like, I don't know if I want to invest in this show, like, it seems like it's just a one-off or whatever. Maybe it's not something that I need to see in order to understand the MCU, or like I haven't really been impressed with the MCU like offerings lately, especially on their television side. What like, are you invested after 3 episodes? Are you like, yes, this is a must-see? Are you like, this is like, for some people it's a must-see, for some people it's like a skip? Where are you at on that?
If you like Marvel stuff, but you want to still just try out something a little bit different, and you enjoy that the TV shows tend to do something different, I think you'll enjoy Wonder Man for a similar reason of like it's just a breath of fresh air. Like if you like the Marvel universe and world, but like to see unique stories told, I think at least for me, it's delivering on that, and I'm hoping that the rest of the show delivers. But also, if you're someone who just doesn't like superhero or Marvel shit, I'm past the point of trying to sell people on something that, like, if you're not into the other stuff, you're not going to be into this. So, it's one of those, they don't fit a, they ain't got to fit a square peg through a round hole. If you don't like Marvel superhero shit, then this show isn't going to be what changes your mind about that, because you're probably just not into the genre. But if you are,
sort of, but
it's refreshing, and I think is apt. Like, to all people I know who actually like watch superhero type shit, I've told all of them you should check it out. And people who finished it have told me that they're really big fans of it. So I've only heard positive reception from people who are actually into this just form of media. But, again, I'm just past trying. But, you're not trying to win over horror movie fans to go see, like, people who don't like horror to see a horror movie. No. If you don't like it, this isn't about to change that.
No, but I also think because
I don't care.
I think because this isn't a show about like using your powers to fight crime or to like save the world, I think it actually has broader appeal where you don't actually have to love the superhero genre to enjoy this show. And I think what it does do, especially in the beginning, it's clear from the beginning that it's a well put together show. Like the episodes make sense, the story arc within each episode makes sense, the acting is really, really good, especially from Yahya Abdul-Mateen. But
well done.
Yeah, Bravo. and even Ben.
I'll say Giannis's last name.
even Ben Kingsley, obviously, right? Like supreme actor, really great. We get some cameos in here, in the first few episodes. Like it's a show that feels a lot more genuine and real right from the get go, and I think some of the other shows maybe like lack some of that connection, and like the actual interactions between characters didn't feel very like real in some way. It felt like sort of more artificial. So I think I would go a step further than you and say like, my first impression was like, wow, this is cool. I love how it's put together. It feels like you knew there was skillful directing and acting happening here. The writing was pretty good. And I think part of that is like, Brian, you binged the whole show. What made you binge it, right? Because I don't know that you're like really, I feel like you're a little bit on the superhero fatigue, Marvel fatigue, Star Wars fatigue, but you watched the whole thing in less than a week. I think you texted us on Tuesday and said I hadn't even started yet. So from the beginning, like, why did you get so hooked in? And like, do you think that's going to be true for most people?
I think kind of both of what you guys are saying is valid for this show. Like, I do think it's a great entry point for people not into the MCU whatsoever, and who are just like,
yeah, you don't need to have seen every single thing.
I think if you don't get the Mandarin stuff, it hurts. Sorry.
And I actually misspoke earlier. It's not A24 that they were going for. They were going for FX. They were trying to make an FX style show for MCU. And this is very much like that. If you're like into any of those shows like Better Things or even Atlanta to some degree, like it has that kind of vibe where, you have these like long shots. It's very much about the actors, kind of like deadpanish type humor that's going on. That is this show, and it is at that quality. And so I do think it's a great entry point for people not interested in the superhero genre. And then on the flip side, the people who are, all on board with Marvel, like I am, but kind of, haven't loved all of their recent missteps, or are getting tired with formulaic plots and things like that. I think this show shows that they are capable of doing really high quality stuff, top-notch acting, writing, directing, etc., but still infuse it with some of that Marvel energy of like, oh no, there's some stakes here, because there is this super powered individual who the government is trying to nab, and that's interesting. So like the show does just enough in every episode to remind you that it's a superhero show ultimately, and I think that also does would get people through the door, get the Marvel stands through the door, right? And so like for me, it's sort of like that nice combination of the two that kept me watching and engaged. And I will say this, before Savon jumps out, that Simon Williams might be my favorite like MCU superhero at this point. Like,
whoa,
out of all the people I care about, I'm like, I think I really care about Simon by the end of this show, in a way that is not true for, like Sam Wilson or for who are some of the other like bigger heroes at this point. Like, I don't know if I care about them as much as I want Simon to succeed, right? And that is a testament to how the show lays out the character and really does a great job of using this long form storytelling and the dynamic between him and Trevor to make you feel invested.
That's the benefit of TV shows. You can do way better individualized character development than movies allows you to, and it makes it a lot easier to invest in care in a character, Brian, because you just have so much time to dedicate to them just talking, living, having awkward family moments at the birthday while your family shits on you about your career and job in a language that they think you don't quite understand, but you do understand. But then you got to also deal with the passive aggressive comments from your brother about your career and job before it all blows. Like, hey, turns out when you can just put just an episode, a chunk of an episode of an 8-episode series to focus on just that, turns out that's a really good driver for that's more character development than certain characters get their entire movie. So, shout out to them. But yeah, Brian, I agree. I think it's a healthy mix of both. I think my only issue is, it's not a real issue, is that I wonder if someone who hasn't seen all the shit building up Mandarin, if that makes them not appreciate just how far this character has come. Like, if you haven't seen Iron Man 3, which isn't a good movie, like, will you, like, I guess my only thing is I would hate to be someone watching this show and then they don't understand. Hey, man, when people say, hey, weren't you the Mandarin? I need you to understand that is the funniest shit, because the Mandarin was one of the worst things Marvel did at the time. And that might be their best course correction retroactive retcon they've ever done, because that went from one of the worst things ever, how the OG did the Mandarin, to them fixing it with Shang-Chi, and then also making Trevor Slattery a dope-ass character rather than just like killing him off and saying, hey, we never did that shit. They're like, no, we did that shit. He did it. We're all embarrassed. And that shit, I don't know, man.
It wasn't the finest moment.
With the way they course corrected that in like an egg and face, but acknowledge it, where I'm like, okay, that's genuinely good. And then to still take Ben Kingsley and put him in, because he's such a good effing actor, that it's like he randomly would have these moments where I'm like, oh, wait, he's being serious right now. And the whole show is elevated for it. But yeah, I'm going to watch some more Wonder Man, but I'll leave it to you fellas. Should I just leave the call? Should I go on mute? What should I do, Wes?
That's up to you. I guess you could leave the call. We'll end the recording after we're done, and then we'll.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Finally, he's gone.
We can talk about now the rest of it.
Doorman.
We should really do like a minimum amount here, but yeah, we have to talk about episode 4 for sure. And then I think let's just fast forward to the ending, because this episode is going to go a little bit too long, I think. So Doorman, episode 4. Spoilers for anybody who's watching. You absolutely need to watch Doorman before you listen to this part. So if you haven't seen it yet, please go watch it. At least that's that episode. It's almost a standalone episode, like almost. Brian, what did you think? They totally like almost left the entire thing behind. We really don't get a Simon Williams, Trevor Slattery look at all in this until maybe the very, very end, I think.
Trevor might not even be in that.
Yeah, it entirely focuses on this totally new character, and his little journey. We know a little bit about him because one of the episodes before dropped this idea that actors cannot be super powered, and the you have to sign a waiver anytime you do an audition or whatever that says I don't have superpowers, yada yada yada, and attest to that. And then now we get the backstory on why this waiver exists now for actors in Hollywood.
Doorman was such a fun episode, and a huge left turn. Definitely something that an FX type show would do. So I was glad to see Wonder Man try it. And apparently, so Doorman really is one of the West Coast Avengers. Who knew? Never heard of this guy. Sounds like a really stupid superhero name. But basically,
what is his Doorman? Why is he called Doorman?
Doorman at a club. He's a bouncer essentially. Taking out some trash, touches some toxic goo, mysterious, cosmic goo or whatever, and gives him the ability to use his body as a portal between objects, I guess. So he's like, and such a good character too. He's like a guy not interested in the Hollywood paper chase, or,
Not at
making it
first.
big. Not into that at all. Totally cool with his doorman job. Just vibing, funny guy. And then he gets this doorman ability, saves a room full of people from a burning club, a burning nightclub, by like letting them pass through his body, through his torso, to get out of that burning nightclub. And one of those people he saves is none other than the voice of Olaf from Frozen, Josh Gad, who is through and through throughout the episode, and then offers him opportunities. Come be part of my team because you're cool. You're doorman. And eventually, of course, he becomes like a memeable type person in Hollywood, right? He like has his catchphrase "Ding dong," because I'm the doorman, and he gets into movies. He's on sitcoms. He does like infomercials. But ultimately has a huge snafu with Josh Gad, where Josh Gad in a movie tries to go through this guy's chest to transport, and never makes it out. And Josh Gad in the MCU is a celebrity who's lost forever in the darkness that is Doorman's chest, which is so bizarre and funny and weird. But because of that, Hollywood will not mess with superheroes in any of their TV shows or movies anymore, because the insurance accountability or liability is astronomically high. And it turns out that is the thing that Wonderman, that Simon Williams is afraid of the most, because his superpowers might directly prevent him from getting his dream jobs. He knows if the secret is out, he will get blackballed from Hollywood forever and cannot live his acting dreams. And I think that is like such a weird, wacky twist of superhero myth making within the Hollywood's, or within the MCU's version of Hollywood. That is just like so funny to think about. And I love that that is the main conflict that really Simon is worried about. Like, he's not worried about bad guys, a super villain. He's not worried about anybody in his life being threatened by his superpowers. He's worried about his career being torpedoed by his superpowers, right? And that's what forces him to be a closeted, superpowered individual, which I think the show uses to great effect throughout the remaining, I think 4 episodes after Doorman.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like the risk it takes to just put aside your entire cast and story and plot and just be like, we're gonna drop in a really like one-off episode with like totally new characters. I feel like we just watched a show last year that did that, and I forget which one it was, but I feel like it's a big risk. I mean, you're invested in all of these characters and the plot that's like occurring, and then you drop in this episode that really doesn't feel or look the same. It's all in black and white. And then you get like the Josh Gad, super cameo here. And then Mario Lopez is in it, acting as himself, as an entertainment host. And so there's just a lot like that goes on here. But what I think ultimately makes it work is that it still does drive the plot forward for the general show, right? Like, it just provides that background and not color, because it's not in color, it's black and white, but it provides that color that you need to understand about like why Simon is fully aware of the episodes or of the events that happened in this episode as we meet him in the beginning of the show, right? This is a throwback to, a year or two or whatever before we actually, where the show mostly takes place. And so we see him watch this on, all this unfolding on his phone at the very end. He's like, crap, like now I'm really gotta thread this fine line. And then it makes takes to like the DODC trying to unmask him and expose him for being a superpowered individual, an enhanced individual. And I think that it just works that like ultimately it does pay off in terms of like upping the stakes. There's a little bit they have to do later where someone actually films Simon um using his superpowers, and now he has to figure out how to like remedy that situation, right? And it also was created by Trevor's past catching up with him, and so that creates some divide amongst them, right? So like they really do use that to propel the next part of the story forward. And so kudos to the showrunners or writers, whoever kind of thought that up and really made it work, I think, for the rest of the show.
Yeah. It's kind of a slow burn until things, actually explode by episode 7. So, Wonder Man and Trevor Slattery, or Simon Williams and Trevor Slattery, land roles in the Wonder Man movie. Simon Williams is the titular star. But what's interesting in the show is that, we get glimpses of Simon's superpower abilities. And it seems like they only come out when he has these really strong, almost rageful, but also sad
Well, it's his. I feel like it's
emotions that he
his
can't.
anxiety a lot of times too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the stuff that he is suppressing are bubbling up to the surface, and he can't control it anymore. And then there's like a burst of ionic energy or something like that that causes devastation around him. And so we see glimpses of that throughout most of the season until he finally finds out that Trevor is a mole and has been spying on him for the government. And on the set of Wonder Man, Simon loses it, right? He is so heartbroken. This guy who is his one and only friend in life now turns out to be a backstabber. And Simon, can't control his superpowers, and he basically explodes an entire soundstage on the movie lot, which of course is going to bring in the authorities. Movie career over. Wonder Man over. They haven't even finished filming it. He had his dream. It was in his grasp, and now he's ruined it all by not being able to tame his superpowers. And that was such a great climax for everything that the show was building up to, especially because at this point we are invested in Simon and Trevor's dynamic. They got the big bromance, as they say, in the show. And then so like the big twisty thing, we think the Department of Damage Control is coming after Simon. But who is going to redeem himself for his past blunders? None other than Trevor Slattery, reclaiming the mantle of the Mandarin. What do you know? And,
I did not see that coming.
Taking the fall for the explosion. Yeah. That was like the perfect twist. And my jaw didn't drop. It almost dropped. It was like very close. But it was like, oh no, like the show makes you love these guys together so much, right? Like more so than anything else, it's their dynamic. It's like these two really earnest characters who have had a lot of time to play back and forth with each other, show their acting chops through it all, and now it's got to blow up, right? It's got to blow up. One of them has to go, and Trevor decides to take the fall as his last redeeming act. And that is so great. That is so great that the show did that.
I agree. It was a good moment, and it felt earned. It wasn't like why would he do that, or like why would he sacrifice for himself? Like you understand that like he felt so responsible and so tied to Simon, and like his earlier promise to DODC, he kept trying to find ways to like wiggle out of it a little bit, but they were just putting so much pressure on him. And so he did sort of give up enough information. The DODC also found out enough information, right, that they could kind of pin these things on Simon Williams and start to close in on him. And Trevor makes a really public statement that like DODC can't actually not do something about it, and he forces their hand to take him instead, which allows the Wonder Man movie to continue, and just really like loved that like self-sacrifice that was there. And then of course like at the end, I mean, well, I did want to say like one thing is that like for Yahya's performance in this show, and it's gonna like get sort of like Russian nested doll here, he was such a superb actor that he could flip within microseconds, milliseconds, his performance from being mediocre and obviously like trying hard and still and not like comically bad. It's just like it didn't have the like feeling that you would want, I think, like a performance to have, to in the very next scene or cut or whatever, you could tell he could turn on his like sincerity and gravity and like, oh shit, I'm like invested in this. And it's just in front of a little background. It's not the real thing. It's like all his audition tapes. And like, it feels like that would take a ton of skill to like tilt your performance to a little bit below what you're capable of without being so far that it's like, this is what? Like, why would it be that bad? And then to be able to like turn it on and show like, yo, I'm that dude in front of a camera. I know how to like get the viewer to like relate to me. I know how to make the tone, the sound, whatever. I don't know what acting is, but just the skill of like how he could do that was like really cool. And I know we've seen people do things like that before, but to be able to pull it off seems really, really incredible. And he did it multiple times. I don't know what you thought about that.
It was really a showcase for his acting chops, right? Like
it felt like
to your point, he's meant to be like kind of a neurotic guy getting in his own way. So it is noticeable when he does some of his like acting moments where his character is acting kind of poorly because he's not being sincere yet. And then Trevor comes in and helps him tap into, his inner self, his authentic self. And then suddenly that switch flips and like, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That was an amazing scene.
Yeah.
Especially when he's
and it's
having
not even
the back and forth with Trevor.
It's not with all the like fanfare of like a Hollywood set, right? Like they're showing you the behind the scenes look at what it looks like when he turns it on, and even that is
he's just doing an audition tape.
Yeah,
right?
Even that. I mean, or like the workshop that they did with the director. All this stuff was like not mind blowing to me, but it was just like so impressive. I was like, oh, props to this dude, like
nuance on nuance on nuance.
Yeah,
right?
And I love that,
all those acting choices.
All right, can we talk about the end?
Ending. Let's go.
All right, I love how they did it. So
good.
They had, if you haven't seen it yet, Simon, starts following this guy and is like, yeah, I'm gonna make my next movie about this, because he had just sort of turned down maybe doing some franchisey stuff. He was kind of like, let me do something a little bit off the wall.
Wonderman movie, huge success.
And so everybody
knows Simon Williams.
Now he wants to do his A24 movie, I guess, is what they imply. And so you see him out in the just kind of, the regular redneck rural area. And he introduces himself to this guy in a bar and says, I want to follow you for my next movie. I'm just observing. I'm just a fly on the wall. Don't do anything different as much as you can. And,
acting research.
Yeah. Acting research. And you think, he's going to do some kind of like, thing where like, this is the guy that he's going to portray on screen. And I just love that, like, it turns out that it's not actually that. This is part of his plan to bust Trevor Slattery out of jail, out of Supermax DODC prison. Yeah, the guy ends up being a guard, and he kind of befriends him, and then really uses him to get access into the prison, and then breaks out of there. And the last we see is the two of them busting out of this giant, massive prison that's underfilled apparently, and flying off into the sky. So I think it's been a few months. He's been able to like work on his powers, control them, and start to learn how to use them, because this is the biggest moment that we've seen him use his powers in the show,
and deliberately so, right?
Yeah.
Like he's like ready and prepared. Yeah.
So
and the first time that we see him fly.
Yeah.
Which I think is, at least in the comics, is one of his key qualities as Wonder Man. He's a flying, strong character.
Okay.
Basically
Superman.
All throughout the show, we've only seen like these kind
just
of
explosions,
like, ionic blasts that emanate from his body or something.
Yeah. And I like that, like, it opens. I feel like it was such a satisfying. It was, to me, a satisfying way to like land the show, as like, we're gonna tie in the DODC stuff here, but we're still gonna like kind of wink and nod to like the beginning parts of the show, right? Like exploring the character. Trevor tells him, you have to live. You have to like find the real parts of your characters. And so we think he's kind of fulfilling Trevor's wish to like, well, because Trevor tells him, before he leaves, he's like, promise me that you're going to like live your life, right? Like do what you want to do and like live it fully.
Live the dream, basically.
This is what I'm sacrificing myself for. And so we think he's doing that he's like embracing not all these big roles, but a small role, something that really he can sink his teeth into and something that's going to like enjoy him. And it turns out that actually what he wants to do is bust his friend out of jail and make sure that he's repaid for the sacrifice that he made for him.
Simon is making a sacrifice in return.
Yeah.
And that pays off so well.
And that probably means his career is done, right?
Yeah, his career is done.
He can't be an actor anymore.
He is sacrificing his entire career, all the success that he's now had, right? He's got his pick of the litter for anything he wants to do as an actor after Wonder Man comes out.
Which, as we know, is what he wants to do. He loves
it. Yeah. They set up his backstory perfectly. Like his dad tells him as a child, like, you're meant for this, you have talent. And like, he's so hyper-focused on acting. But we also know that he's never had a friend before until Trevor comes around. And, by the end of the show, by the end of the season or series, who knows, right? It might be end of the series, that like these two guys actually really play well together, that they love each other, that they respect each other. They're great as actors together. Their characters are great as actors together. And Trevor made a big sacrifice, and now Simon is returning that favor, right? He is saying, my career isn't worth a lost friendship. And I think that's so beautiful.
Goosebumps.
That's so beautiful. And so like when we see them, this wide shot of them flying out of the prison together, it's like, I don't know, it's like Thelma and Louise or something, like going off the cliff and like, oh, that's great. I love that. And then like reality sinks in and it's like, oh man, I don't think Disney believes in this show. We might never see them again. How sad. But, and like I said, because of all this carefully crafted storytelling that went into developing the background of Simon and with Trevor, right, as part of that, I think I care about him I care about him more than most of the other superheroes in the MCU at this point. Of course, there's recency bias as well, but like, what a great character. What a great character.
Yeah. I mean, I also think it's like, as much as, I just want to continue to go back to the idea that the actor that plays Wonder Man did such a phenomenal job that, and he had good writing, obviously, but I don't think it was just that. I think like he's such a presence on screen. He makes his vulnerability like so clear, and his weakness is so clear, and his journey so clear, and you just get so invested that I think you're right that like, and the format of the show allows us to explore that and live with him and sit with him and like see how he's like fumbling the bag so frequently,
constantly,
but also how hard he's trying to get there and improve himself and like get there and like, and finally being with Trevor Slattery allows him to open up in some ways. And then of course, the knife gets dug in. That like, you're there for the journey. You're like, I'm seeing this guy grow up before my eyes, and I want him to succeed, but like I can see where he still needs to grow and what. Yeah, I mean, it just makes for a really cool character to like follow and want to know more about.
Even at the end of episode 3, right? Like after they've just been at his mom's place and whatever, and they get the news that both Trevor and Simon are called back. They get a callback.
Just
right?
a callback.
Like, they're not even getting the job, right? They just get a second audition for this movie, and how excited he is and also just relieved. I mean, I was so happy for Simon at that point. And that's only the end of episode 3.
Is that where where Trevor destroys the recording?
Yes.
I mean,
Trevor destroys the recording device.
There's so much tension in that scene because that Trevor is also undercover at this point.
Yeah.
And is seeing and has seen actual evidence of him being a superpowered individual. And you don't know what, and so Trevor is excited for his own self and for his friend, but he is also now worried like, I'm going to have to turn my friend in. Like, this is going to go badly for me and for him. And this is not good. Like, this is such a bittersweet moment for him. Not a bittersweet. It's just, it comes with a lot of bad baggage behind like what's happening here.
Yeah.
That
Rock
really,
in a hard place.
yeah, it really enriches that scene so much. All right. Let's wrap up there a little bit. I don't want to make it seem like this show was a perfect show that like everything they did worked entirely. I don't think we have time to talk about the nits or the notes that we might give it, but I mean, just know that like it's not a 10 out of 10 show. It's not. I think, you know, if I was like, well, is this as good as Andor or Pluribus? Like, it's not, but it's a really fun show, and I think what a nice breath of fresh air from Marvel to put something out that is like on all levels working, right? Character, actor, writing, story, all of it is working really well together. And it doesn't feel like, oh, they're like trying to force this or force that or whatever. Like all of it mostly seems to work together. And there's a few moments here and there, but I don't know. Yeah. High five to them.
Some things are too long.
Yeah, but
maybe it could use more humor.
Yeah,
in there.
I'm still like 4.5 out of 5. I think, you know. Yeah. Anyways, they might have gone with a different person than Josh Gad. Yeah, that would have been nice. But Joe Pantoliano, that worked. Love that.
I love that guy, and I love that Simon like gives him the business.
Yeah, at the very end.
You're not funny. Right. Yeah, I'm an 8 out of 10 on this one. Right. Not perfect, but a good watch, solid watch. I was super excited to watch it, and it lived up to it. And I want to see the West Coast Avengers. Let's see Wonderman and Doorman team up together.
Let's go.
With the Mandarin. I don't know how that would work, but yeah, I would totally be down for more Wonder Man. And like I said, this kind of feels like a really long origin story for his character. And you know, it's anyone's guess what would happen to Simon's character after now he's basically a fugitive from the law at this point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he broke into a prison and broke somebody out.
Yeah.
For sure. You can go a lot of interesting ways.
They just want to act, so maybe they have some underground theater performances. I don't know. I don't know what happens.
That would be a wacky version. All right, let's wrap it up there. Friends, highly recommend you go watch the show if you haven't yet already. You probably did at this point if you've listened this far into the spoilers. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. And if you didn't, let us know what you didn't necessarily love about the show or where it missed the mark for you. We'll put the show up on YouTube, on Instagram. Just kidding. We'll put a post on Instagram, but the whole episode will be up on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Overcast, all the casts, and YouTube. So check it out there. Friends, we're out of here. Hit us up on @confidently_pod. We're out of here. See you later. Bye. Jar Jar Binks.
Incredible!